Greetings, Patrick here. 8 questions with, and welcome to Wednesday. All right. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Uh, we will be talking with our guest tonight, Eric Hanson. He'll be here in about 15 minutes, and we have a load of questions and topics to talk about, including really what's one of the most unexpected movies that I've seen in a while, and Nefarious. That is a faith-based horror movie. I mean, it's it's not a religious horror or supernatural horror. It is a faith-based horror film. That now I know there's other ones. I guess the Left Behind series, but that's it's I don't know. I just didn't see it the same way. I think this, because most horror fans they won't go see something like that. They will stay away from that. They're not interested in that kind of religious horror. Um, but Nefarious is not that. It is completely different, and it is different. It's interesting, and I mean that in the most positive way. It looks really. I've been waiting to try to get a copy of this movie. I know it came out on the physical media. I'm trying to hopefully get a copy of Nefarious for my own. Hey, Stephen. Hi, Jennifer. Anthony. Hey, Stephen. Greetings, greetings. Glad you guys are here. This one's going to be a good one tonight. I'll tell you that. It's going to be a good one tonight. And of course, yesterday we had Derek Barr on the show. That was a sensational interview as well. Wow, that was a lot of fun. Yes. Uh, Eileen Dietz was in Creep Show 3 for about 10 seconds. Yes, that's not enough to save the movie. Not enough. See, thank you so much. We did it. Our mate. Oh my gosh! Congratulations, Jennifer. That's awesome. We'll definitely have to talk about that. Let's see. No, no. I think if you want to see Eileen Dietz in her full acting glory, I highly recommend watching Night of the Caregiver. That she co-starred with Natalie Denise Spurl, Eric Roberts, and Joe Cornette. That is Eileen Dietz at her finest. She was really good in that movie, really good. Um, and that's a fine movie. We have interviewed Natalie Denise Spurl, and we also talked to director and actor Joe Cornette about that film, and we have reviewed it, and we even did a watch party with it. And if you missed any of all that, just look for Night of the Caregiver on my channel, and you'll be able to check that out. Let's see. I want to go ahead and let me do one thing real quick here, and then I will be with you guys here. Uh, let's see. Uh, all right. I want to go ahead and give you guys. I'm going to go ahead and put Eric's Instagram up inside the chat there. So if you guys want to see, if you want to go ahead and follow Eric, you guys can do that. Let's see. Let's see. Anthony says that he is still stuck in 1998. Gosh darn it. 33 days till his 41st birthday. That's gonna be a big day. Uh, all right, so I'm gonna be dropping Eric's Instagram page here. By all means, go over there and give him a follow. Say hello to him. That would be really cool. Let him know that you saw the interview here. If you leave a comment, let him know you saw the interview. Wow, come on. Let him know you saw the interview here. and that would be helpful to the channel too, because that would direct some people over here, over this way. Um, yes, thank you so much. So, yeah, Eric is good. Eric is a really cool cat. When I approached him and asked him about doing the show, he was very generous, and he said that he'd love to do it. And then, I said, okay, this is awesome. Because to get a star, get one of the stars of Nefarious was, it's like, wow, you know, yeah, I'm going to do that all day long. And then about a week after we put our date down, he sent me he sent me a link, and the link was to a commercial that he did. He did a national commercial for Coors Light. Hey, Mike, how are you, sir? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. So, Eric he rolled out a national commercial. That's big. That's big. It's like everybody sees it. And not only did everybody see this commercial for Coors Light, but he also did the commercial with Patrick Mahomes, who is like the top quarterback in the NFL today. He is today's GOAT. So he got to do a commercial with Mahomes. Patrick Holmes, Mahomes. Sorry, get it right. He's a Chiefs quarterback. He's not the Steelers quarterback. But anyway, uh, so yeah, so that's exciting, and so much recognition right there as well. So I'm very excited for him for that. That's when you get to do a national commercial, especially with a well-known personality. Man, that could really give a good boost to your career. Really can. Commercials are important, and and I've heard many actors have said this too. It's a lot of times that getting. In fact, our good friend, the late Dennis Mallon, he was on a national commercial that ran during the Super Bowl, and he said that after the commercial ran, his phone got busy. His phone got busy, and people saw him there. They're either congratulating him there, or there were people wanted to send him scripts. I mean, he got really busy after that commercial. Sadly, unfortunately, he passed away not that long afterwards. But he shared that knowledge with us that a national commercial can keep an artist afloat for a long time, financially, while they're looking for work elsewhere. When you're a working actor, and you got to keep going. You got to, while you're looking for the parts, you got to keep working. And so and you feel that pressure a little bit too, obviously, right? Because you want to get a role, you want to get paid, and all the other stuff that goes with it. So when you get a national commercial like that, it can take a lot of pressure off. And the residues are really good as well, especially if they run that commercial for like 6 months. That's awesome. And believe me, this commercial will be run a lot during the football season, which is going to start next month with training camp. And since everybody is always televising football, either on the football network or ESPN or whatever you have. I mean, everywhere you turn around, there's football. Um, Oops, I froze. Hold on, let me see if I can unfreeze myself here. No, hold on one second. Ah, okay, I'm back. So when you get a chance to do a commercial like this again, and get the national exposure, football season's coming up. Hopefully, that will lead your character. If your character becomes a memorable character, sometimes you might get a commercial built around you. So there's it's all the possibilities are all there for a lot of good things to happen. So we're going to be wishing Eric the best for that. Of course, we had Derek Barr on yesterday afternoon as well, and that's a sensational interview and very insightful. If you ever wanted to think about getting into acting, I highly recommend watching that one. Derek had a lot of insight, and he was very generous in sharing it, and I really enjoyed talking to him as well. I can't wait to have him come back. Um, Yeah, it was dark last night. Don't want to go into that. Um, but yeah, sorry about that. But we're back tonight, and tomorrow night we have Haley Hanson will be here with us, and she is a singer, songwriter, an actress, and a cosplayer. And she is well, obviously she's very multi-talented, and she will be our guest tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And then we're gonna roll into some more of July. Next week is going to be action packed. I tell you, we have on Monday we have actor Chris Lazaro will be here with us. Chris Lazaro will be here with us. He's one of the stars of the new movie The Omicron Killer. So we'll be talking to him about that. Hopefully into August, we'll be talking to one of his co-stars. If I can set that up, if I can manage not to fumble it. Hopefully we'll be talking with Paul Shadow in August. I'm going to try to set that up today. And hopefully that will work out and we will have something popping for August. All right. And then on next Tuesday, the 23rd, we have Crystal Connor will be here with us. And she is the organizer and founder of Cabin in the Woods Film Festival. And I would tell you more, except that the doorbell just rang. And that must be it's our guest tonight with Eric Hanson. So thank you for being here. Share us out if you can, and let's go get them. Greetings.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good, good, good. Man, so we have so much to talk about. We have so much to talk about for sure. But I'm still recovering from the fact that I don't think I've ever seen a movie quite like Nefarious.
Oh, wow. That Nefarious, what a gift that was. Sean Patrick Flannery just blew it out of the water.
He's an exciting actor. He
Oh,
always has been.
oh, it was absolutely amazing. And I was on set to see some of his, there's no spoilers here. There is an execution scene. I'm not going to reveal whether or not it took or not. But so I was there on the set on the day that he was shooting that, and it was brutal. It was one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. And I think that's the reason that movie got an R rate for a faith-based movie to get an R rating. And I think that it was the way that he contorted himself was so graphic and violent. I think he balanced himself right into an R rating. So it was just amazing.
Yeah, though, but that's a shame too. That's a shame because this movie, should have been seen, and it did get viewed by a ton of horror fans. I don't think
Yeah.
horror fans really understood what they were watching. I think with Sean Patrick Connery being in there, they were thinking of all the movies that he's done, like Boondock Saints and the Dark Rose. I mean, Hunter's Moon. There's so many movies that he's done for horror film, and I don't I don't think the actual horror fan actually realized that they're watching a faith-based film.
Yeah, I think sometimes that can work to your advantage because uh, some audiences may have a preconceived notion to what a faith-based film is, and then when you go in to see Nefarious, you get what you came for, but you also get that added element. So it was a chance to have a conversation with people that might not normally watch faith-based film.
And that's a shame because there's been some really corkers out there. Um, let's see, there's a lot. There's been a lot of films out there that faith-based films. I'm talking about like the independent ones, not the ones backed by studios, but the independent ones
Mhm.
that are really strong, and they don't hit you over the head with a message. They're not quoting scripture at you. What is that? I hear feedback. Um, testing 1 2. Sure, it's not me. Okay, testing 1 2. Do you hear a feedback on your side?
I don't hear feedback.
Okay.
Are you hearing it when I'm speaking or when you're speaking?
When I'm speaking, I'm hearing it. Let me ask the chat if they hear that. You guys hear the feedback on here, or am I just going crazy or crazier? I probably shouldn't ask that question. Um, okay, testing 1, 2. Yeah, I feel I hear it. Oh well. Oh, okay. You are hearing it. Okay. Do you have your how do you have your sounds, Eric? Do you have your sound up on your on your computer?
I do. Do I need to turn it down?
Yeah, try turning it down.
Okay, that's about as low as I can get.
Testing 1, 2. Perfect.
Is that
That's
good?
yeah,
All
it's a
right.
lot better.
Okay,
All right.
good. Glad to help.
Yeah, yeah. The first time I did this, very first time I did this, I had no idea about that, and I got in there and I went on live and I started talking. Holy cow! You thought you were inside of this big old empty building with the sound just rocketing elsewhere. It was just
Yeah.
like it was like being at a concert, and you know how they feedback during when they're singing. It
Mhm.
sounded just like that. I'm like, what's that? What did I do? Did I blow up my computer? Um, so once I learned what not to do, and then I became less
Well,
became less.
isn't that the best way to learn? Learning what not to do.
Yeah, but even when you're a friend talking to a guest, it's sort of
Right.
like this is not a good thing for this to happen.
Right. Yeah.
um okay, so back to Nefarious for a
Sure.
little bit. So now have you ever done any faith-based films up to that point?
Sure. Sure. I've done some faith-based films. Did another movie that just came out a couple months ago called Chasing Hope, which is another faith-based movie. Is pretty good with Layla Cushman, directed by Samuel Joshua. It's a good movie, and it's out wherever you can stream films now. But before Nefarious, just a few faith-based projects, but most of them were indie, and so they didn't have the mass appeal clearly that Nefarious had.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I definitely think Nefarious, it benefited from the premise and Sean Patrick Flattery.
Hmm.
But that's all right though. If any way you can get it, any way you can get it, you can get it to the people. Um, like I said, I enjoy independent faith-based films. But are those? I mean, now when you heard about those films, because I'm going to go back to your origin story too, because
Sure.
we're going to do
Yeah.
that. But I just want to get this out real quick because it's so fascinating to me. Do actors, once you do a faith-based project, I mean, or do you look for them? How do you look for those kind of projects, or are those, or just those things that just come across your desk and you just happen to do it? How,
It comes in a variety of ways. Sometimes, if you've done a faith-based project, then sometimes somebody will see that film that you were in, and then they'll say, "Hey, I'd like to look at you for this role for this other film that we're about to do." At the time, I was with an LA-based agent who specialized in faith-based projects. So her talent was heavily represented for faith-based projects. So, like for Nefarious, Carrie Solomon reached out to Gene, my agent, and said, "I'm needing one specific type of character. Who do you recommend on your roster?" And she gave him my name, and he asked me to come on in. So that was actually a good. It feels good whenever you're cast when you don't have to audition. So just his relationship with my agent and his respect for her and her opinion really helped. So that's how that one came. And sometimes, you know, if you have done a couple projects and people that are in that world know you or have seen your work, they'll reach out to you. That's how it happens. I see the most. But now there's a lot of projects. There's a lot of independent projects that are being made just across the spectrum. And so a lot of those in there are going to be faith-based films that are doing the traditional casting. And so you'll see a lot of faith-based projects that come up on, your casting sites, Actors Access, and casting networks. So there's a lot of faith-based projects now that are doing standard casting. So it's good that they're able to do that. Not too many years ago, the majority of the faith-based films were smaller projects, or they didn't quite have the momentum that I think the Nefarious helped shoot some life into that part of the industry. So I think a large part of Nefarious and other projects that have come out this last year are really helping the faith-based producers get their names out there and get the cast that they're really looking for.
Yeah, a lot of the indies too, when they started, like, the Kendricks brothers and being the one examples, a lot of those were they're almost like community theater on film. They were just, or they basically casted a congregation,
Mm-hmm.
And they made films based on that. They're not professional actors, they're not, they wanted to make a film, so they said, let's, who wants to help out, and they learned on the fly, and those movies came out and they did really, really well, and then more people started doing it. It's just such a rare phenomenon to see a movie like, and to me, the R rating, in a sense, it actually helps the movie more than it hurts it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that and going, man, you like to see a PG or a PG rating, but even then, you wouldn't get probably half the audience you would have gotten without the R rating. In this case, an R rating generally means a smaller audience, because you're eliminating so much of the audience. You're eliminating parents and kids and stuff like that. But in this case, for horror film, having that R gives it credibility.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Street cred.
Yeah. So, yep. So let's go back to the origin story. Obviously, where were you born and raised at? Have you always been in Texas?
No. I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, but I was raised and went to school through high school in a small town in Arkansas called Sheridan. Population 3,042. Salute. If you remember Hee Haw. And it's a dead center of the state. It was just a fantastic Mayberry upbringing. It was, I really, really miss it. I like to go back every once in a while and see if the Walmart's still there. And so there was that, and then I joined the Navy. So I spent 4 years enlisted in the Navy. So I lived in Charleston, South Carolina for a little bit, and then Mayport or Jacksonville, Florida. And then after seeing the world, when I moved back home to Little Rock, I felt like I didn't want to go back I didn't want to go back there and just stay there. I'd seen the world and I wanted to keep on exploring. So I just packed up everything that I could fit in my little Honda CRX and drove to the big city closest to me, which in that case was Dallas, Texas. So drove to Dallas, found a room to rent, found a job, and started that. Yeah.
What did you do in the Navy?
I was electronic warfare. It's onboard intelligence, basically. It's shipboard intelligence. So I sat in a dark room looking at little green lights.
Right. Were you on a missile cruiser?
No, I was on a fast frigate. I was on USS. Shout out USS Taylor, FFG 50.
All right. Yeah. That's still in service too, I believe.
Well, it just got decommissioned, and I was able to go to the decommissioning a few years ago that they had in Florida, and they sold it to a smaller foreign country, and they are now it's still in commission, just not with
U.S. Navy
our stripes on it.
Yeah. Okay, so now here you are in Texas, now in Dallas. Now, when you moved to Texas, was that with the intent of becoming an actor or an artist? Or you just wanted to see what Texas is about?
I just wanted to do Texas, and so I started working in a restaurant, and that's where I ended up meeting my wife. I was a waiter, and so did that And then she was in the mortgage industry, so one of her friends hired me to be a mortgage loan originator. So I did that, and we moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and it was going well. But I learned during this quest of trying to find what I really wanted to do, I realized that chasing the dollar was not what I wanted to do, because it was all about, as soon as you close one loan, you're looking for the next. And you never built anything. You never made anything. There was no legacy to have left behind or something that you had helped create. It was just, you're constantly looking for yourself. And that didn't sit right. So my wife, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So we had a nice house and we sold it, and I wanted to do something creative. So I moved to Chicago, and went to school and studied fiction writing at Columbia College, Chicago. And that's the beginnings of how I got kind of back into the entertainment.
You started out as a writer.
Yeah, I started out as a short story writer, and that was what my degree was in fiction writing. And I was working on some scripts, and we moved back to Texas, where my wife's originally from. And decided, okay, I'm going to go to a film class, one of the acting classes, and if I can get the actors in the class to put my scene up on his feet and I can see it, then I can go home and do my edits, my rewrites. So that was the plan, and that lasted exactly one day. My very first day, I was in class, and there was an actor. His name was Glenn Morshower, was visiting this class.
Oh God,
he's seen 24. He's Agent Aaron Pierce. So I recognized him, and he asked me to do a scene. Reluctantly did, and he said, I think you might want to consider doing this. I see something there. And so the very next day, I signed up for that class, another weekly film study class, improv class. I got a private theater coach that I was working with on a weekly basis, and then introduction to commercials with Gail Cronauer. So I dove into the deep end with bricks on my feet.
But you're kicking, but you're swimming.
We're swimming. We're swimming. Yeah.
I just wanted to say hi to some people who came in. Our good friend and also fellow filmmaker, actor Jeff Clark Jr. is in, and he himself has made a faith-based film called Filthy Animal that is up for many awards, and it's spectacular. Spectacular.
Be sure to check out Filthy Animals.
Yes. Oh my, yeah. Oh hell yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's different from Nefarious, but it's a fantastic film. Yeah, people have heard about Glenn Morshower. Let's see. Of course, I remember mostly from the X-Men movies and from he did 2 seasons of 24, and yeah, that's how I remember him. Great actor too.
Oh, and an amazing guy. I was blessed enough to sit in his the extra mile is what his it's not just an acting class, it's more than that. It's a way of life. But I was able to sit in that with him for a few years and study under him. So it's he's the real deal.
So now we're back in Texas. Now, did you continue writing when you moved back? Were you writing for yourself, or were you writing for commissions?
I was writing for myself, and similar to how I kind of approach acting, I wanted to spend time in learning and training before I actually put anything out there. Like with acting, even though I was taking classes, I didn't even want to go on an audition for months and months, because I didn't want to not be ready and walk into the first audition room with a casting director and not be ready for it, and them say, the next time I see them, I might be better. And I didn't want them to think, we've seen him before, he's okay. I wanted to wait. So that's the process that I was with the writing. And I'm still writing, but mostly for myself. I've written a few short films. I wrote Brady's Lot. It's a wonderful, to me, short film that's won some awards. And that was just for the love of the craft. And I think what we were saying earlier about doing some faith-based films and how they may not be the professional production companies, but they're turning out some pretty good films.
Yeah.
I think that if you have a story that you don't just want to tell, that you need to tell, and you have to crawl over broken glass to make that happen, I think that you have an opportunity that just feeling like you have to churn out the next movie. There's heart in there, and I think that there's something in there that's attractive to me. Not be the best movie ever or the most
Me too.
polished movie, but it feels like there's some heart in there, and
Yeah.
that's the stuff that really turns me on.
Me too. Me too. I just really, I mean, I'm a horror fan too, but people say, what's the one thing that drives you as far as watching films? Always going to be story. Always. Will never be anything else. It won't be because of the character. It won't be because of a writer or a director or a cast. It'll always be the story. The story is always the key component. I mean, you can have a great cast, and look how many times have we watched a movie with a great cast, and you watch the movie's just not very good. It's just
Yeah.
not really made. There's no, like I said, there's no heart to it. It's just it's too commercial. It's designed to make money. It's designed to market toys. It's designed to become a franchise, and it's just like, but it has no heart in it. There's nothing there that makes you sit there and go like, wow, it was so good.
Yeah.
I want to watch it again. I want to show it to somebody.
Yeah.
That's to me. That's what really drives me. It's like if I'm watching a movie and it's like really like yes, like just movie.
Right.
I tell people all the time when I get a chance, you should I saw the short film. It's absolutely amazing. You should check it out. Um, you know, I I'm all about promoting that because
Yeah.
you just don't see it very often.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'll tell you, about 10 years ago, I think, when I first started, because I've only been acting for like a little over 10 years. But I went home to Little Rock, Arkansas for my cousin Molly. Her son Zach was graduating high school. And so we went home, and Little Rock, Arkansas was having a film festival. That's the only one that I'm aware of that they've had like this. But it was a Sunday morning at 10:30, and my wife and I were with my dad, and we said, well, let's go see if there's a movie that's about to show before we go to the graduation this afternoon. And on Sunday morning at the library in downtown Little Rock, and whatever they had for a little theater, there was a movie that was going to be playing, and whatever it was, that's the one that we were going to see. So we saw this movie, and it was called Before I Disappear, and Sean Christensen wrote and directed and starred in this. And it was one of the best movies I'd ever seen. It knocked my socks off. And for several days, I'm still thinking about you've got to see this movie. And so for several days, I'm still thinking about this movie. It just won't leave. It's just part of it. And so when we finally get back home, I'm researching this movie and looking it up. And turns out that the year before, it started out as a short film called Curfew that won the Academy Award that year for Best Short Film. And so without knowing anything about it, we know what a good story is. You don't have to have a cast that we're aware of, but if there's a good story that sticks with you, that's just math.
yeah, that's magic. That's magic. I do, and I'm sure everybody in the chat. I know a lot of people in the chat, and I know that when because they're movie fans, and when there's a movie they really like, they'll jump on it and they'll just talk it out. Not necessarily the big commercial movies, but the small independent movies. You'll see people say, people don't talk about this movie because they don't know about it. For me,
That's
that movie,
100%. Yeah.
for me, the movie for this year that I'm trying to get everybody to watch, which maybe I shouldn't, but I loved it, and that's a movie called The Coffee Table. It is a mind blowing movie, mind blowing. Yes, but it's not for everybody. It is not for everybody. I warn that. I tell that to everybody. That's like I think it's the best movie of the year, but it ain't for everybody.
Yeah.
It's it'll stay, a lot of it, stay with you, but for some people it might trigger, and I don't want to be responsible for that. So, now, so I like your audition, and that's really That's really something to explore a little bit because
Yeah.
how long did it take you to go to get into to the audition mode that you felt confident enough to go out there and hit the audition?
It took a few months once I first started studying, but I'll tell you my very first audition. I did a play called Ordinary People before I even went into the Navy. I did it was a one and done. I did the play and it kind of stuck with me, so I would come back. But this was in the early '90s, and my dad tells me, "Hey, they're casting this movie." I went to school with the director. I don't know him, but there's a Ordinary People. If you know that movie, they're doing the play, and if you want to go audition, they're having open auditions. So I just drove from Sheridan to Little Rock. That's all the planning that I did for this first audition. And so I drove to the Playhouse, and I went in and put my name on the list. And the way they had it set up was tiered seating with a raised stage, and they had two chairs on the stage with a script under each chair. And they would call two names over the speaker, and you would go up and sit in the chair and pull out the script, and they'll tell you what page to go to. And then it's all right, start with this line and go until we say stop. So that's kind of how the audition went.
Now, were you doing this in front of everybody?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All the
Oh,
other actors and but the thing is, it's like a like a newborn. I didn't have any fear because I didn't know what to be afraid of. I never experienced anything like this. It was like something fun to do. And so I sat down and we started reading in the scene. And this is the first time ever on stage. And so I'm shaking my paper so much, I thought I was going to start a fire. And so we're reading the script, and it was a guy and his girlfriend scene, and it went pretty well. So they called my name again, and they called out another actress, or female actor. And so we did the scene again, and then a third girl, and then they finally brought out a dad, and I read with him, and then a mom, and I read with her, and they called someone else's name, and I was off the hook, and thank you very much, and I left the stage. I went down. They had craft services. They had the little table with the snacks on it, and I
right.
picked up a little Dr. Pepper with the little clear plastic cups and a big thick walnut chocolate brownie. Is one of those big, thick, cakey kinds. So take a
Right.
big bite of this. And before I got a chance to drink my Dr. Pepper, they called my name again to go back to the stage. So I go up to the stage trying to choke down this brownie. And again, I'm cotton mouthed. I just spent 20 minutes talking, haven't had anything to drink, nerves, so you're cotton mouthed. And I had the saliva of a puppet. So I'm running up to the stage trying to get this thing down. And I was like, hold on just a one. And are you good? Mm-hmm. I'm good. We're good. We're good. And so we get to the scene with another girl, and there was a line where I was supposed to say, but when it comes to you, I wouldn't anyway. And I was supposed to put my hand on her hand. Well, when I say, but when it comes to you, I wouldn't anyway, on to you, this nugget of walnut and brownie just hit her like right here, and just kind of stayed and kind of rolled down. So instead of taking her hand, I just kind of wiped her cheek a little bit to get that off, and they're like, "All right, thank you. You can go home now." So that was my very first audition.
Wow. Yeah, I felt bad for you, but
Yeah,
you did it though.
yeah,
Um, and the thing is though, like you said, you didn't know enough to be scared.
mhm,
Um, that's actually pretty good. That's something I would, because a lot of actors, you talk to them about their first audition, and the fact, I've never heard anybody do audition like you did.
yeah,
I always, auditions have always been to me. It's like you go in there and you go into a little room and then you read for the director and the producer or what have you, but you're away from everybody. But for you to actually do that in front of all your peers and you did it and you got called back,
yeah.
that's
And the
impressive.
people were kind of walking around. Not everybody was just sitting in the seats watching. People were kind of walking around, and there was movement out there. And yeah, I didn't know any better, but turned out all right. I did book a small part, a supporting role, and the girl that I nuggeted on with got a walnut on her cheek. She ended up booking the lead, the main girlfriend role. So maybe I helped her out because she kept her composure. But if I helped her, I'm here for it.
So what year did you start your film career? I mean, when did you get that started? That was in the 2000s. I mean,
yeah, that was in 2013. I went to my first class in May of 2013, and I didn't go on an audition until probably August, I think. So it was several months of, again, studying 5 days a week minimum before I even. My thought was, if we're going to do this, let's pour some gas on the fire. Let's hit fast forward and get as much experience we can now, rather than take it as it comes. Let's go get it. So it was several months before I actually did my first audition.
And our friend Reed has come in, and he just commented that Nefarious was awesome, and yeah, and it definitely was. Yeah, it's so it's like, I wonder how many people really understand what they watch. That's the thing. I mean, it's like they probably didn't even know what it was, which is really brilliant. If you think about it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your IMDb, and it's like and you've also one thing I also noticed too, and it makes sense now, is that you're also did some writer. You're also a screenwriter, and you also did a little bit of producing as well. So
Mhm.
you actually got your fingers in all aspects of well, except for directing, which I'm sure that will come soon enough. Um, what was it like for your because your first big film, you made a TV movie, which is really weird to talking about this now. You made your first movie was Lee Harvey Oswald, and walk us through that.
Lee Harvey Oswald was really my first time to be on a significant production, and that came about. One of the ladies in my acting class said that she saw something. She emailed it to me, and there was a Craigslist posting about extras for this big project that was coming to Dallas. And so this is Craigslist. And so I submitted, and they came back, and I got an email. The email name was really weird, and then the phone number was on there. The production company was supposed to be out of New York, but the person emailing me was like in West Virginia, and I was like, I don't know. And they're like, you booked a role for a police officer, so come on down the day of the shooting, and we'll get you fit and have you on the thing. And I thought, something's weird. This doesn't feel right, but I'm going to see this through. So I drove down to the Texas theater where Lee Harvey Oswald was ultimately arrested, and in the theater, and we're shooting on the scene, and I see all the big trucks, the wardrobe trucks, and I'm like, all right, this is a legitimate. I didn't know if it was a Craigslist scam, but all right, it's a legitimate project. So I'm waiting to be fit for my cop uniform, and one of the assistant directors came in. They were shooting right down the street in another building. I mean, in another part of the strip, in a shoe store. Assistant director came in and just kind of looked around and pointed to me and said, can you follow directions? And I said, yes. And he said, come with me. So I don't know what happened with the original guy, the shoe store owner, but I walked down, and the director is Anthony Giaccone, who's now an Oscar winner for a documentary. But he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand over here. You're wiping off the shoes. You're listening to the radio. Something's going on. You're not sure exactly what it is. There's this weird guy who walks into the breezeway. You see him. You put the shoes down. You walk around the counter. You go to the door. You look. And when you look at him, he's going to leave. Put your right hand on the door. Wait for 2 beats. Then with both hands, open the door. Walk out to the sidewalk. Look down the camera right. And walk off. Can you do that? And I said, yes. And he said, do it. So I did it. And he said, great, we need to get you in a suit. And so we walked down, and they got me fit in a suit. and came back and we did the scene. We got it in one take, and he said, "Great, just for that, we're going to give you a line." And so that was my first line. We got on the set, and my famous line in the show was, "There he is." So I got to point out Lee Harvey Oswald in the theater when the cops came to arrest.
That's sensational. That's a great story. Wow, it's just, yeah. It's really weird is that we have talked to a lot of people who've done Craigslist stuff, and I remember the first time talking to somebody, and they mentioned that they went to a Craigslist ad, and I'm thinking to myself, going like, that can't be too good. That's not going to work out too well. But I've heard like 5 or 6 stories about Craigslist, and you know what? They've all turned out to be legit. And it's like, yeah. I mean, I could totally understand your. Yeah, I'm not so sure about this, but you went down there. You took a leap of faith, which I have a feeling is a common thing in your life. You went down there and probably went from being just a background as far as being an officer to get yourself a role. Yeah, it might be one line, but that's certainly better than no lines.
Yeah, Johnny Calvin Brewer, and rather than cop number 3, and also
Right.
Calvin is my father's name, so the whole thing just it just fit. It was right.
So after that, I mean, you must have been absolutely jazzed. What's it like after you get after you get done with your first job? What's the emotions like? Is it like world beater? Like, I can do anything, or is it like, how did that happen? Or is it just like, okay, uh, what do I do next? Was this a fluke? What's it like? The emotion after the first job.
I've never personally had any addiction, but I would assume that it would feel like that. I've got to get my next hit. This feels good. This is this warm, comforting feeling, and it's not just because of the acting or the industry and all that. I think it's because when you find your place in life, because I spent many years kind of searching, and so when you find that place where you're like, I fit this, you feel overwhelmed with this feeling of finally. But then you're also looking for, I need that next hit. Like I need this. This is now part of my DNA. I need this like water,
Right.
Yeah.
The need to the expression to create. I mean, definitely get that. What was your reaction? What was your wife's reaction and your friend's reaction when you told them that you actually was on a set and got your first part? How did everybody react to that? And did you guys have a watch party so they could see you in action?
Yeah, well, my wife and I, we were back. It came out around Thanksgiving, and my wife and I, we would go for our first 10 years, we would go to Chicago every year to celebrate Thanksgiving. So we were in a hotel in Chicago, just the two of us, and flipping through channels. I didn't even know that it was on. And we're flipping through channels, and we just happened to hit the History Channel. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And we watched it for maybe 3 minutes before my one little scene came on. And so me and my wife, and we were in Chicago hotel room, and it was couldn't have been any better. Sometimes when you watch like the NFL draft and everybody's sitting, the whole family, everybody's sitting around the TV, there's that. I'm much happier to have had it this way, where just me and my wife having this incredibly, it's a private moment. Yeah.
Sure. Plenty of time for plenty of time to show off with other people, but still, the first time you see it, see yourself on the screen and go like, wow, all that hard work, all that blood, sweat, and tears, all the auditions, everything else was just paid off in that one moment. Even if it's just that, it's like Rudy. Here's Rudy. He gets in there for one play, and he gets that big play, and he gets carried off the field. He sweated for 4 years at Notre Dame, or 2 years, and then he comes in and he gets that one play. I totally get the emotion out of that.
Yeah, Rudy. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm glad you brought that one up.
Yeah, yeah. That's I could I can even hear the joy in your voice when you're telling that story. And I agree, Jeff. That's a great story. That's one of my favorites so far. Um, okay, so now you're in that position where he's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm good enough to do this. I know that I am. I just did it. I had fun. So what's next? What's the next thing? And were you doing theater at this time in Dallas as
Mhm.
well?
Yeah, I was doing theater right out of the gate too. I think my first 5 years or 6 years, I think I did 13 plays. That I absolutely love working in the theater. I love film. I love the whole thing, and I couldn't choose my favorite. If that question comes up, I'll tell you ahead of time. I don't have an answer. I don't know which one I prefer. But I'll tell you, my first play I did it was Sam Shepard's True West, written by Sam Shepard, but directed by Bill Roden. And it was the first time my wife had ever seen me on stage live. And there was a funny scene where me and my scene partner had gone out and were drunk and stole a bunch of toasters from throughout the neighborhood. And we come back and we're both sitting in the sink and we both fall feet up into the sink. And my wife starts laughing, or everybody laughs, but she keeps on laughing. And so it was the hardest thing in the world. That was the closest I've ever come to breaking character, was hearing my wife laughing. Uh, I wanted to laugh right along with her, but I couldn't. I got a job to do. Let's do this first. But that was
Mhm.
the first time that she saw me on stage, and that was, you know, that'll go down as one of my favorite memories.
Oh my gosh, you got the great stories. Uh, do you think that the part because you love you said you couldn't pick one or the other. Do you think part of that has to do with writing is the reason why you love theater just as much
Mhm,
because you can because you've written before.
mhm.
I'm not sure if you have done any. I don't know. Have you ever play wrote a play? Have you ever done a
No, no, I haven't written stage plays. But to tie that in, back to what we were talking about earlier, being about the story, and actors are ultimately storytellers. We have a story, we have a character story to tell. We're part of a bigger story that we're telling. And so I think as a writer, and you see yourself as a storyteller in both. And so it's all about the story, whether it's live or whether it's on film. Um, it's just story. It's just different ways of telling it.
yeah? Uh, all right. So now here you are. You're doing theater. You're now you're getting your feet wet here on the inside the big screen. So talk to us about the biggest early role that you got to do. Like like what are some of the what's probably like the biggest role you got after you got your start? The significant role.
Yeah, a few years after I got my start, probably about 4 years in, I booked the leading role in the Challenger disaster, about the 1986 Challenger explosion. We told the
Right.
story of the engineers, and I was the lead engineer that tried to prevent the launch because we knew that the weather was colder than had been expected, and we weren't sure of the O-ring integrity, and so we were trying to stop this launch. And then there were other powers that be that wanted the launch to continue, and so that was probably my my first breakout. And I'll tell you, speaking of the auditions on this, um, I get the audition. This was through Backstage, and it was called Angry Men at the time. And I get an alert that they saw my demo and they'd like for me to tape on it. Would I be able to tape for it today? Because they're going to make the decision in a couple of days. And as an actor, the answer is always yes. Like, can you uh, can you speak with an Irish accent? Yes. And then hey, teach me how to speak with an Irish accent real quick. So it's like, yes, yes, I can get it to you today. And so that night I had an event. We were doing a skit. It was Christmas time, and a another stage person and I were doing a skit for this other playhouse. And so I said, all right, I've got about 2 hours to get this tape in. So I come home and I Google it and print out my sides, and it's 3 long scenes of engineering babble. And I was like, oh no, there's no way. Like, so on the audition, there was no way that I was going to be able to get off book on this. So on the audition, I showed them that I have the script in my hand and did the audition and sent it off. And about 30 minutes later, I'm getting ready to, I have to take an Uber downtown. And he says, hey, can you do a call back with us on FaceTime? This is before Zoom. Can you do a FaceTime with us? We really liked it, but we're having a problem. We need someone that can get to 11 on a scale of 10 of anger. And we just need to see if you can do that. That's all that we need. And I said, yes, but I've only got limited time, but if you can call me, we'll do this. So my friend and I met at a restaurant that was right by where we were doing our little skit. And so they FaceTimed me. Now I knew that they were looking for 11 of 10 of anger. So just to highlight it a little bit, hi, good to see you guys. I don't want to really yell in here, let me step out into the parking lot so I don't bother any of these nice folks. And so go out into the parking lot on the FaceTime. And so I don't remember any of the dialogue, guys. I can improv. And they said, yeah, just act like we had done something wrong and someone's life might be at risk if we don't fix this. Hit us with it. I said, all right, are you ready? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, all right. So I drilled them down with it really hard. And after about 20 seconds, one of the producers was like, hey, okay, stop. I feel like I'm in trouble. Like I feel like I just got yelled at for doing something really bad. I'm like, all right. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. See you later. And hung up and get out of there before you say anything else, And so I ended up booking that role based on that audition.
It probably really wasn't a stretch to be angry as you got into the role and you read the script.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is one of those movies where you actually acted the least according to the script. Like you weren't really acting because you were probably in the moment for that role in that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that character, he's not a very likable character because he's always angry anyway. He's kind of when the donuts are stale, he puts in a memo and he chastises people. And so whenever it comes down to the O-rings and the fear that he has about this launch that's going to take place, they don't really take him seriously because he's constantly raising red flags on everything anyway. So they kind of didn't really pay as much attention to him as they should because it had a reputation of being an alarmist. So, and every scene in the Challenger disaster, I would ask Nathan, our director, I'm like, all right, on a scale of 10, how angry am I in this? Every scene. And I don't think I ever got below an 8. I mean, I was just mad the whole, in a way, the whole movie. So,
you're playing, this is the second movie now we're talking about where you played in a true life person. The Challenger disaster. What's it like working on a film like that? I mean, knowing that happened and their sense of responsibility has got to be freaking immense, because you can't get it wrong. You don't want to get it wrong at all because this really happened. We don't have really, there's not everything's going to be dead letter perfect as far as, this is what happened at this time, at this time, at this time. I mean, there are some license, to move around a little bit, but essentially, basically the story is the same. What's it like emotionally playing a character like that?
Well, on this one, I wasn't playing I was kind of a composite between the two main guys, Roger Beaujolais and Bob Eveling. And my name was Adam in the movie, so it was a fictionalized version of what happened. But I will say that a massive amount of the dialogue came from the court transcripts of what was actually said in the court whenever they were recounting what had been said on the day. So a lot of our dialogue was verbatim of what was recounted in the court transcripts. But my character I didn't need to replicate a known figure. I'm not playing Elvis. I'm playing someone that the essence of this, not specific personality, but of their overall character, I guess. So there was that. And my prep for that was not so much on the specific person who I was representing, because I didn't want to get that in my head and try to mimic any specific person. My focus was on the engineering. I wanted to get what is an engineer? How do they stand? How do they talk? How are they within their own community talking to one another? These are all guys. There was two female cast members, but it was all guys because of how it was back in '86 at the time where we were. And so, how were we? How did we act back then? How are engineers with one another? What do all these terms mean? What is it that I'm actually saying? I was more interested in that than becoming the physical person. And so my brother-in-law, Wes, is an engineer, and he designs airplanes. And I copied many mannerisms from him and did my version of him, and a lot of the time. So putting that puzzle together was fun.
Did you have trouble letting go of the character after you were done?
No, but I did get a message from his granddaughter that said that the quote was, Adam was the exact portrayal of my grandfather, Bob Ebeling, who had more integrity in his pinky than most people have in their whole bodies. It makes my heart happy, and it makes my heart sad in a happy way. So as far as I'm concerned, that could be the only review that I ever get, and I'll be happy with that.
That's a powerful. That would be such a man. That would be such a heavy role to play.
Yeah.
I mean, considering now I have not seen the movie myself. That's one I'll look for. But during the filming of the movie, was your character shown watching the Challenger explode?
Yeah. We were in the office break room. There was a group of us, all the engineers that were trying to stop the launch. And so you can see our reactions. And one of the things that they put in that I really appreciate was they had school children that weren't necessarily part of the movie, but my kids in the movie, their classrooms sitting on little pallets. They wheeled out the television like they did in '86. If you were in school then, you remember they would bring out the 3-tiered shelf-looking thing on wheels with the TV on the top, and the kids sat there and watched it. So you could see their reactions. And so, you could see our reactions to when it exploded.
What? I mean, I'm just curious about this because what was I'm sure you can remember this. What was your emotion during that when you watched that? Here you are, this is culminating all the way up to the Challenger exploding, and you're sitting there and you're watching this. Well, is it, as far as you're playing the character, but you yourself, do people get emotional during those kind of scenes where there is a natural disaster or I'm not talking like something like the Armageddon or anything like that. I'm talking like a true life. Do people get emotional on set when they're doing that and they're showing they're in a key situation? Do actors or even cast members, do they sometimes lose it emotionally?
Yeah, that happens all the time, especially if you're working from the inside and you're really feeling rather than portraying how you feel. When you're work to really feel these emotions, and sometimes it's really hard to feel these emotions we might shoot a really heavy scene for half a day. And so it's hard to stay in that. So some of the funniest jokes are the ones that come after, between roles, because you've got to make yourself laugh. You have to break out of that for a moment and then kind of get back in it. But I think what I do and what I think a lot of people do on the heavy scenes is if you can keep yourself at a simmer, if you know that you're going to have to boil when the camera's rolling, if you can find a way to keep yourself at a simmer, where the little baby bubbles in the pot are just starting to happen before it bubbles, if you can keep yourself there, then getting to the boil is not that far of a reach. So there's a trial and error that every actor has to do to find out what's the best way for them to be able to get there. And for me, that works best, is to kind of stay at a simmer, even though there's moments we've got to get out of this and laugh or crack wise.
Yeah. That's yeah, I really like to see you in this movie. I'll have to look for that for sure. I just saw that. I did see that on your body of work, and I was like, that's got to be a heavy ass movie to do. I mean, that's hard to do because you got to portray somebody's in there seeing what's happening, and it's just like, even if it is happening, even though the movie was made in 2019 or released in 2019, and it happened in '86. How could you still watch? Millions of people still watch that today. You go to YouTube, and you see like they'll show the scene happening, and you look and see there's millions and millions and millions of people have watched that scene over and over and over. It's just something that's people are
It's one of those times in life where you remember where you were if you were alive and if you were old enough to know what was going on. And I remember I was in 9th grade earth science class when that happened, and I remember it specifically. And the writer of that movie and director, Nathan Von Minnen, was legitimately a rocket scientist. Like, he was an aeronautical engineer before he got into making movies. So this was a personal thing for him. And a lot of the conversations we have in pre-production was how this was such a personal film for him, why he wanted to make the story. And he loved 12 Angry Men, the movie 12 Angry Men, because it's a talkie talk. And he said, I love a good talkie talk. So that's kind of where that came from. And
I mean, dramas are dramas, and I guess comedies. I guess they're probably the most with the most dialogue. What was the first? What has been your? What was that your first introduction as far as? Was that your first time you played other than the person in the shoe owner? Was that the first time you ever played a real person? Because I see afterwards you played Oliver Stone. So after Challenger, did you suddenly start getting your agent start giving you roles from people who wanted you to play real people, or was that just a fluke?
That was just a fluke. The one with Oliver Stone, I was as shocked as anybody to have booked that. And it was so much fun working with Will Kaufman. But that was such a fun project as well. But that just happened. I think when I first started training with doing everything from improv to film study class to theater class, while I was trying to find my niche, I tried everything. And I'm not an impersonator. I don't do accent work very well at all. I'm not a very good impersonator. But I think that if you try to find the essence of what that person represents to most people and just do that, recreating, you have Gary Oldman. I'm no Gary Oldman. You have certain people that can really bring it. And you feel like you're watching, when you see Val Kilmer play Jim Morrison, you're watching Jim Morrison, or Austin Butler play Elvis, you're watching Elvis. It's always fun to do, but it's also a little intimidating because you don't want to get it wrong.
What 3 roles have you done yourself do you think have helped you in your career the most?
Well, of course, the Challenger disaster, because that helped my career. And also just being on a set and living as the lead in the movie. I was in most every scene. And so being able to immerse yourself in that movie, in that character, in that world every single day for weeks, is the best acting school there is. You're living this thing. And so there's that, of course. I did a play called Junie B. Jones. It's a Christmas play. And I played Mr. Scary. And we're on a national tour. And during the tour, during one of the shows, I went up about 3 pages on some dialogue. I'm talking to the kids who are played by young adults, but I'm talking to the kids. I'm telling them that there's a virus that's going around school. And then I get interrupted by the kids and they tell me, oh, that's why this one kid's not there because he threw up on her shoes. And then this happened and that happened while I'm walking between their desks. And I'm coming back around and I'm back at my desk and I say the exact same line in the exact same place. I say, like I was saying, kids, there's a virus that's going around school and you can't get it from this and you can't get it from that, but you can do this and this and this. Well, we're in front of 2,200 people live. And I say the line and my muscle memory kicked in and I said that the second version the first time. So I skipped about 3 pages of dialogue that needed to be there. Oh. And this is live. And so I'm looking at the other actors and I'm seeing just
confusion.
What? And so I noticed that there was one upstage right. His name was Ryan Page. And I saw him and he kind of gives me a nod. It's kind of, I got you. So I find a place to pause and he jumps up and his character is a little spaz anyway. So he spits all this information out that all the other characters had been skipped over because of me. And got all the information out there that we were going to need later, and then sits back down and we're back to where we need to be. This helped my career because it showed me that there's a safety net and that if you have improv training, if you can be comfortable relying on your fellow actors, you can get out of a mess. You can get out of a pickle. So you don't have to be so rigid on getting everything just so right that you lose the essence of the story. And so it allowed me to realize that this isn't life or death. There is a safety net and we're going to be okay. So there's that. And then probably my third that changed everything would probably be
there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from.
There's a lot to choose from. That's the thing.
Maybe Nefarious. Maybe Nefarious because it was I had a small role on that, but it got so much notoriety and I get to talk to people about that film so much because so many people are aware of it. It's been one of the most high profile projects that I've been in. So just the fact of doing a small thing on a big thing, it also allows me to see where I would like to go. You know, there's always something down the road, and it gave me a clear path of what that road can look like. So something to shoot for.
Now, I'm glad we're going to touch on Nefarious again, but I want to ask you this: what kind of were you a horror movie fan? Have you been a horror movie fan before you walked into Nefarious? I mean, do you like watching horror yourself?
Horror movies give me anxiety.
How so?
I just I'm not able to relax into the horror movies. And I'm not able to sit and enjoy them like most horror movie fans are. And I get it. I totally get I appreciate it. And I've done a lot of horror movies. And there's so much. Let me say this: horror movies are some of the funnest movies to shoot. Mm-hmm. And not just Nefarious on that scale, but you can do a really cool horror movie, and they're not expected by the audiences to be polished, so they can be, but the audiences buy into that, right? And so it gives you a little fun leeway when you're acting, or when you're working on them. So working on horror projects are some of my absolute favorites because they're just fun to do. But watching them, I just feel nervous. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. So how did you get into Nefarious? Walk us through the process of how you landed the role.
Yeah. So my agent in LA sent me an email with a script attached and said, like, urgent, when they're needing your response. You've been offered the role of the assistant warden. Here's a copy of the script. And so I look at the script and I go down, and I didn't know who had written it. I didn't know who was attached to it. I didn't know anything about it other than just, here's the script. And so I'm reading it, and I saw that I had a small role, and I called her and I said, I don't know if we need to be doing this right now. I think we need to be kind of shooting for, and on this project, do you think you could get me an audition for one of the bigger roles? She said, no, everything's already been cast, but they're specifically wanting to look at you for this. And I said, okay. Well, she said, by the way, here's who's in it. Here's who wrote it and directed it. Chuck and Carrie, and then Pat. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. And so I went to set. I flew down, and she said they've got several other projects that they're going to be making. So let's consider this like a real extended audition for the other projects that they're going to be doing in the future. So let's go blow them away and then make that relationship. I said, A1, let's do that. So we went to set, and I got there a day early, and Carrie, very generous, walked me around, introduced me to people, had a nice conversation while they were shooting another scene, and came back the next day, and we were shooting. And my scene is basically, I'm the assistant warden who, at the execution, you have the viewing room. The name of it skips me, but the people that are there to witness the execution, and you have the glass, and he's behind me, and I'm kind of telling everyone, okay, here's the rules. You come in, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. We're going to lock the door. Once that door closes, you're not going to be able to leave. If you feel sick, here's what happens. Put your head between your legs. And so this is the situation. This is a very dire moment, and there's not going to be laughing. There's not going to be joking. This is serious. And so that's my spiel. And so we get up to do the scene, and I did it. And I was there to really make my mark. So I might have overdone it a little. I was wanting to put a little stank on it. And so you hear Carrie call, "Cut." So he comes into the room and says, let's pull back a little bit. Just pull back, and let's speed it up. No, you don't need any of the pauses or anything. Let's just speed this up and get it out there. I was like, great. So we did it again, and he says, "Cut." So he comes back and says, "Yeah, speed it up even more." And he's like, "Don't put anything on it." And I said, "Do you want me to do it like an airline stewardess would tell people to buckle their seatbelts, and here's the mask if you need it, put it on you before your kid?" He's like, "Yes, do that." I was like, "Gotcha." So we did the scene the third time, and we keep going all the way through. And he calls cut, and he comes in, and he puts everybody on a 10. Everybody take a 10 real quick. So he tells me, "I'm going to go call your agent." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, No, we're happy." And I was like, "Okay, good." So he stopped the scene and called my agent, and he came back a little bit later and said, "All right, I just got off the phone with your agent, and I forgot that it's 8:00 in the morning there. But when she answered the phone, I just said, your guy just made my movie better." And I hung up, and we came back, and now we're back to work. Now I need you to do it about 5 more times. So I went from being afraid of, am I going to get kicked off of this thing, to him being happy with what we did. So what a wild ride that was for that one small scene.
Now, I have never heard of a director doing that in the middle of a movie. I've never heard of it. I've of all the times I've talked to everybody, I've never heard anybody tell me that kind of story.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens very often, does it?
Not to me.
I've never heard anybody sit there and say, yeah, you've done such a kick-ass job. I'm going to call your agent right there at that time and sit there and say, yeah, he
I think
delivered. That's
I think
crazy.
it came from he had been searching for someone that would be able to that would do a small role like that that was going to have a certain gravity. He was looking for something specific, and he relied on her. And I remember I did an audition, so it was his way of letting her know your choice or your opinion when I reached out to you was good, and I'm letting you know that I trust what you did because you gave me this guy, you recommended this guy, he worked out, and I'm letting you know. Thank you. I think that was the context.
Yeah, that's amazing. And of course, in the bigger picture, like your agent said, this is an extended audition. Well, I think it's pretty much safe to say that you passed that as well.
Yeah, and so and these guys, Chuck and Carrie, are so amazing to work with. They originally did the first God's Not Dead, and then they did Nefarious, which upped their game even more. And so the projects that they have access to, and the things that they're going to be able to make, and they just built a new production company, or they're building one, putting something together, I should say, in Texas.
In Dallas.
So we're really excited. Everyone here is excited, and the projects that they're going to be doing. All you have to do is ask me, "Are you interested?" And my answer is always going to be yes for these guys.
Oh, that's now. Are they building a new production studio in Dallas?
Yeah, I don't know the details of that, but in I believe it's Denton. I believe, but right on the outside of Dallas. We have all of our little towns here, all kind of connected. But
Right.
they're putting something together. I don't know the details of everything just yet, but we're expecting some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't wait because now that's isn't that something with what was your first horror movie that you worked on
the first horror movie. Um,
besides
I
Challenger?
did some short films. The kind of films where you're still in your makeup. You driving home and you're just hoping you don't get pulled over because you look like you got a head wound. But one of the first feature film horror movie I did is called Companion. That John Darbone wrote and directed that one. We shot it in Brenham, Texas. That was an absolute blast. It was so much fun. That the makeup that they did on all the zombies and everything was great. Yeah, and I'm good friends with John to this day. I met him through open casting, and then met him on the film, and now we're really good friends to this day, and we see each other all the time. Work on projects together as often as we can.
Well, I can imagine how much fun that would be.
Yeah, it was fun. On the audition, he had something very specific in his mind that he wanted, and I read the sides and I gave him something different. It wasn't what he wanted, and I knew that I can try to give you everything you want, but sometimes it's better just to take a leap of faith and let me show you how I see this. Let me just show you this, and then if we can play around, if you like me at all, we can play around with what you want. And I gave him something completely different dialect, different mannerisms, and he said that he liked that better than what he had actually written. So sometimes taking a chance can pay off.
Who are some of your? I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm going to
Yeah.
put you on the spot. I'm going to put yeah. I'm going to do this. So I want to know who has been your favorite 5 male and 5 female scene partners been,
Favorite 5 male scene partners.
and 5 female scene partners.
Yeah. Well, number one is Glenn Morshower. I've done a couple of films with him. I got to do a scene with him in the Challenger disaster,
Yeah.
and was able to do a scene with him in a movie called Neon Days. So by far, he's the favorite person that I've worked with. There's an actor who lives. His name is Russell Shealy, and he lives in South Carolina. He doesn't have an agent. He doesn't want one. He works more than anybody else I know. In fact, right now he's flying back from China from doing a 5-week shoot. Comes home for 10 days, and he goes back for another couple of weeks. So I worked with him, met him on Companion. Russell Shealy is a force. He's one of the greatest people and one of the most fun people to work with. Trying to go through the old Rolodex because I don't want to leave. I'm. By the way, I'll go ahead and say this right now. If I leave one of my friends out, I'll hear about it.
We got you covered.
Yeah. So someone else that I really loved working with. So many people that I just. Sometimes you're on set and you're like, I don't want to leave this set. I want this to be a television show so that we can just work together all the time. That happens so often.
Would you rather work on a TV series every week or rather stay in feature film?
Sometimes, every once in a while. Sometimes when you get into this great mix of people and you're like, oh, this is great. I could live here for 3 to 5 years. So sometime I would love to do a series. I would really, really, really love to do. I've never done a recurring role on a television series, so I would love to experience that. That's on the unchecked checklist. Plus a little bit of the job security. There's a lot that would go with that I would love. But I love doing films because you get to play a variety of different people and it changes all the time.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never understood. I've never understood the fact that some actors will sign up to do a TV series, knowing full well this is a TV series, 42 weeks. And you've gone through audition, we're cast you, and then after the first season, they want to leave. Too much work.
Yeah,
I can think of when it comes to mine, I'm thinking about Mandy Patinkin, which is about everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
If he gets past the second season, it's a freaking miracle. We heard about Sasha Alexander, who played on NCIS. It's like, okay, you signed up for this. You signed up for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much work. Oh my gosh. I just can't. I mean, as a producer, executive producer, or network person, you think you're going like, I spent so much time and effort and money on this person to cast them, and then they go ahead and they say, well, yeah, I really don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit.
I can't speak to that because I've not been in that position, but I couldn't. Again, there's some unknowns. I might get in there and there may be things that you're not aware of, or maybe there's some conflicts. But I know that like on television series, they swap out the directors all the time. You don't have, there's never one director that directs, or most of the time. But because they want to make sure that there's no conflict and they want to have different directors coming in and putting their spin on. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that a lot of television shows
yes
have you go to the IMDb and they'll have a line of directors this date or that date that may be doing 2, 3, 4 episodes only. And so
then you have one like Dave Sandridge who did every single episode of Mary Tyler Moore. He was the director. Before we go, we do got to touch one last thing before we go, and we won't be there too long. Yeah. But I want to talk about that commercial because that commercial is fire.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So you did this national commercial for Coors, and you got to act with Patrick Mahomes. You were actually the key in the whole commercial. You were actually, you hold the key to everything in that commercial. So tell us how that came about and how much has that already helped you?
Well, we're still finding out because I'm still getting calls and texts about that. But that came about through general casting. This came through my manager, not my agent. So my manager, Tanya Renee, is with Citizen Skull. She sends me over and she's like, "Hey, I've got this opportunity. I want you to take a look at it." And it was originally for the role of the director. Now, the commercial is about making a commercial that's not a commercial. You have the whole set, and Patrick Mahomes is supposed to be shooting a commercial about him being this James Bond type guy, and he's on a train, and then his manager says, "Cut." She cuts down the production, and she said, "We can't let you do this because per the NFL rules and regulations, you can't do any beer commercials." And so he's like, "Well, why can't I do the beer commercial?" And so the director's like, "Well, this was supposed to be my lucky break." And all this stuff happens because they have to shut down the commercial. And so they're making a commercial about not being able to make a commercial. And so originally I auditioned for the role of the director, where I just say, "This is supposed to be my big break." And that was it. Um, and when I got the call back, they called me back to do two other roles. There was one that was a product specialist, and there was another role for a person that was going to be doing the craft services. And so I read for both of those instead of the original one, and so they liked it. So they brought me out for fitting, and they had me fit for both roles. The product specialist who's cleaning off the beer cans and making everything look pretty, and also the craft services. So they fit out for wardrobes for both of those, but they didn't know which one they were going to use me for. And so the next day when I show up on set, we still didn't know which role. And they said, "We're going to go ahead and combine both roles into one. So you're going to do both in the world of the product specialist." So that's how that kind of came about, and that was so much fun. The guys that shot this, the director, these guys are so fun, and it was kind of cool because they were on the phone. They were on the phone or online. I'm guessing that it was with the suits in Denver. I'm guessing because you would hear, or they would be on the phone and be like, "Okay, we're going to do one more, but this time do it this way. Okay, now we want to see it this way." And so there was feedback coming from, the wizard behind the curtain. And so it was kind of cool the way that I'm not sure exactly what all the specifics were on how that was tied up, but it was really cool knowing that there were people offset that were streaming in watching this. So the whole thing was just so much fun.
Now, did you get to meet Patrick?
Yeah. Really, really, really nice guy. So down to earth. So, we'd already shot most of it before he came in. So he came in and kind of did his parts, but he did them with us. And then we did our parts, or I did my part with him. And then he boogied out of there. So they had him for a set amount of time. And they got everything they needed. But he was just so down to earth. He didn't crack open beers and talk, but he was business, but he was funny. When he was on set, he was cracking jokes. Everybody was laughing. He was very loose and relaxed. I was a fan anyway of his playing, and now I'm a fan of him as a person. He's the real deal.
And that commercial, I mean, just what a opportunity too. We had a fellow guest. We had a fellow guest on here named Dennis Mallon, and rest in peace. And he did he goes a story where he got a commercial for a Super Bowl. He got a Super Bowl commercial, and he did that. And he came out, and we talked to him right afterwards, and he was sitting there going like, "That might be the biggest thing that happens to me right now, because that's going to open so many doors. I'm being seen by so many people."
Yeah.
And now have they debuted that commercial on TV as of yet, or will that come out Will that come out a little bit later in the year?
That's out. I don't know where. I think right now it might be. I keep getting messages from people that have seen it on like TikTok and on the bigger social media, but I don't know where it's actually playing on TV. They may be waiting to put that on TV because they ended up coming out later. And the thing was about putting it, the footage of the commercial that we couldn't shoot into a time capsule. That's the thing. Put the footage of the commercial that we couldn't finish into a time capsule, bury it, and then later on he can dig it up and show it to everyone.
Right.
So a few weeks later, they did a faux news conference to where they were going out to the time capsule to where it was buried. And so I don't know if they're going to dig that up at a later date, maybe for big games or something, and bring it out. I'm not sure, but right now it's on social media everywhere.
Now this could actually lead to another commercial, wouldn't it?
Possibly. I think he's done a couple of Coors like the Coors Bear instead of beer kind of a thing. So they've had a couple of others that had kind of a play on not making a commercial for the beer. So we'll see. I know that we had so much fun on this, and the connection that I have with the director and the staff on there. I would do anything to work with these guys again, just for the pure. I didn't have to do sit-ups. I mean, that was ab day, all the laughing that we did.
Yeah, I was, that commercial is fire. When you sent that to me, I was crying. I was like, this is funnier. This is funny. This is great. And I saw that. I'm going like, oh, you can run with this. You can make a series of commercials with these guys.
I mean, who knows? Flo at Progressive started out doing one commercial, and now look at her. So you never know where something like that can go.
Melania, who did AT&T, she started out as Lily, the phone girl.
Yeah. She's fantastic. If she was on a sitcom, I would watch her. I think that she is fantastic.
Yeah, she is. We watched and reviewed her movie, Werewolves Within, and that girl can go. She's the real deal. She's legit. She's funny as hell.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what. Thank you for coming out. I kept you a little bit longer, but I definitely wanted to cover that commercial because that commercial was hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to see if there's any. Does anyone have questions for our guest before we let him go? Let's see if anybody has. Let's see. I'm looking up here because Prince is here. And Prince. Oh, okay. I do have a question. I knew Prince wouldn't let me down. Prince asked, "What are your 4 favorite films personally? What are your 4 films that you like the best?"
Yeah. When we were talking, and Patrick, when you and I were talking earlier, what's your favorite movie? For me, it's about story and how long it sticks with you. So for me, I have to math it out. When I see a movie, how long does that movie stick with you until you're able to move on from it? Otherwise, they're all my favorites. So of course, my favorite movie is probably be Shawshank Redemption. Another, and maybe not in particular order, but of course, Godfather is one of my favorite movies, just because I kept thinking about that movie for weeks after I saw it. Before I Disappear with Sean Christensen, who wrote and directed it. I was telling you earlier, it's an independent movie. I'd never heard of it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I promise you that if you watch that movie, it's going to stick with you. It's just so good and beautiful. And my 4th movie would probably gonna go with I'm gonna go with Beaches with Bette Midler. Okay. That movie at the time, I watched that at the time when I was dealing with the loss, and that movie hit all the right notes for what I was experiencing at that time. So it really just stayed with me. And she had one of my favorite lines in there. Bette Midler plays this actress who was kind of full of herself at a certain point. One of my favorite lines of hers was, okay. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? So, one of my favorite lines.
I actually own the remake of that movie.
Really?
Yes, I own the remake of that movie with Idina Menzel and I can't remember the other lady's name, but they remade it for Lifetime,
Yeah.
and I picked it up. I
Yeah.
watched
Oh,
it. I thought it
nice.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. Any other questions here? Not a question, but really, our friend Larry the Cat asked is awesome. Not a question, but really enjoyed Nefarious. There's a lot of Nefarious fans here. Shawshank Redemption, great film, of course. Tony Montana is a legend. Scarface, definitely. Every time I think of Godfather, the only
Yeah.
scene, the one scene I think of when I think of Godfather,
Hmm.
I think when they shot up James Caan and he's down the ground, the guy walked up there and kicked him in the head. It's like, dude, you put 50 little slugs in him, and then you got up there and kick his head. What's up with that? That's just
Yeah.
overkill.
Yeah.
Uh, that's my one memory from The Godfather. The whole damn movie is James Caan getting his head kicked.
James
Uh,
Caan. I would have loved to have worked with James Caan, man.
oh my gosh, back in his day, man,
Yeah.
people don't even know. They don't even know how intense he was.
Oh, and
Oh
dude had
man,
no filter, like no filter.
no, no, he said exactly what was on his mind. He didn't care who heard it. Um, but as he got older, I have to say this though, as he got older, he didn't necessarily mellow because he did some great performances as he got older.
Hmm?
Even when they were trying to translate him into the god, the grandfather roles, he
Hmm?
still had a lot of spice in him.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see what else we got for you. Underrated film, pick any decade. Underrated.
Underrated film, pick any decade. Underrated. Um, Breakfast Club gets a lot of flack because it doesn't stand the test of time. You wouldn't be able to make that movie today. But Breakfast Club, there's so many quotable lines, and the chemistry of the cast. It was a talkie talk. It all took place in one room, basically, um, one centralized location, anyway. And although it's not PC, I think Breakfast Club is one of the best movies. Especially because I was 15 when I saw it or whatever, so it really hit me right in the sweet spot.
The movie for me, for my John Hughes movie for me is Some Kind of Wonderful. Man, I love that
Oh,
movie.
yes.
Love that movie. And Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And those two.
Oh, that's another quotable movie. You get Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in there. John Candy, that's a person who I would have loved to have just met. I mean, working with him would have been too much, but to have met John Candy, you know, um,
Some actors, when they pass away, you really feel it emotionally. Like,
yeah,
when Robin Williams passed away,
yeah,
like you really felt that. Like that hurt, you
yeah,
know. And John Candy was like that for me too, man. When John Candy died, I was crushed.
yeah,
I I still miss him.
yeah.
I
He was everybody's favorite uncle.
Yeah. I just wish he just would have had just a little bit more time to have it because he was changing his lifestyle. He
Yeah,
was changing it. He had quit smoking. He was starting to trying to lose weight. I mean, he just started a little too late,
yeah,
and it just bummed me out and he was on his way to becoming a good dramatic actor. I mean, you watch Cool Runnings. You go watch Cool Runnings and go watch exactly him. Watch his character. That's a great performance.
yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of
And some of the best dramatic actors, Jim Carrey, Steve Martin, come from comedy, and I think comedy may be a very good. Um, when you come from comedy into drama, they always seem to have those actors always seem to have that
they do.
extra something.
They do. That's absolutely true. Dramatic actors can't do comedy, but comedy can always do dramatics. They really can. It just seems to be it seems to be naturally progressive. I mean, you think of all the great comics that we have, and you look at their movie roles, and you look at them, they've all done serious movies, and they've all done it extremely well.
Yeah,
But everybody can't. It doesn't go both ways. It's like, oh well, gosh, well, if they think they can come in and do dramatic, well, I'm going to go there and do a comedy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work that way.
Doesn't always do, but whenever it does, like Christopher Walken, whenever you do have that dramatic actor that comes in and brings the funny, that like with Christopher Walken and Cowbell, that's one of my. I absolutely love it. You're surprised. You're not always surprised when you see the comedian do the dramatic like Will Ferrell, but whenever you see that's not you love it, but it's not a huge shock. But when you see someone like Christopher Walken come in and be really, really funny, you're shocked and it's delightful.
Yes. Yes. That's a great word to describe it. Okay. Let me hurry this up here. Okay. This will be our last question. That says, what do you love most about your job, Eric? And can you give some advice for the younger generation if we want to pursue a entertainment related job? Uh,
The thing that I love best about my job is being able to truthfully tell a story. Although we're living in a world of fiction, it's true to us, and to be able to relay a story that can land on an audience and have some sort of an impact. We've built some sort of a legacy. Just being in the industry, whether you're grip, gaffer, whatever you are in the industry, you have built something that is going to be there when you're gone. And so I love to be in a position to where I can be part of something to tell a story that is going to make an impact, hopefully, and stay there. Film is forever. So I
yeah.
love that. And advice that I would give the younger people that are coming up: don't be afraid to try new things. Just because other people have done something that has made them successful doesn't mean that recipe has to apply to you. You can create your own recipe. So think outside of the box. Think outside of what everyone else is doing, what you see everyone else is doing. Try something new, and own it from within. Bring yourself to it. Don't try to be what you think they want to see. Give them you. There's only one of you. Be that one. That's what we want to see.
Yeah. Be yourself. That's great advice.
Yeah.
We are way past time, so we're going to end it right here. I definitely want to thank you, Eric, for coming out and hanging out with us. And to the chat, thank you guys so much. You guys are really engaging tonight. I really do appreciate it. We'll be back again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with young actress Haley Hanson will be here with us. She is an actress and a singer-songwriter, and she'll be here with us talking. And that will be at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And Eric, hold on for 1 second. I'm going to say goodnight to the chat. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And be safe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. And you and I will talk 1 minute. All right, everybody. Peace.
Bye.